Phase 4 of Fru is almost entirely reliant on your tank's survival because of the strats that we use. So if you're tired of losing a pull every time your tank's Doom Puddle gets stolen, this strat is for you. I know you're probably thinking, this fight's over a year old, why are we changing strats? I promise you, it's so easy to implement. If you only told your co-tank and no one else in the party, they wouldn't even be able to tell the difference until it's saving you. It doesn't require any extra healing or mitigation. You can play the exact same way that you're used to. The only thing we're changing is aggro management. So let me explain. So typically we have both tanks turn their stance on at the beginning of phase 4 because we need to have top aggro first and second on Shiva. She does auto attacks throughout the phase that will kill anybody but a tank, so we always have to make sure that the top 2 aggro are secured so that that doesn't happen. What's weird is, for whatever reason, Gaia just never auto attacks at any point during the phase. I don't know why this is, but because of that we can take advantage of this. So at the start of phase 4, both tanks will turn their stance on, with the off tank provoking immediately as soon as she spawns, and then the main tank shortly after. What this will do is when both tanks provoke with their tank stance on, it generates an absurd amount of aggro. Once the memory crystal spawns in the north, both tanks can turn their stance off for the rest of the phase. And that's all the setup that's required for 6-2 Akh Morns. Once Gaia spawns, DPS generates significantly more aggro than tanks when they have their stance off. Even healers will be ahead of the tanks due to healing aggro. So it doesn't matter who, but one of the party members that aren't the tanks will always have aggro on Gaia from this point onward. So skipping ahead past Darklit to the first set of Akh Morns, the tanks will stack on the C marker to take the light stacks from Shiva, and the party will stack in the middle as usual to take the dark stacks from Gaia. Now what does this all mean and why is this useful? So because 2 tanks have aggro on one boss, one of them is now allowed to die at any point. So say they get sent into the wall by crystallized time and it's just you, tanks are more than well used to taking those Akh Morns solo. So whichever tank survives does their normal rampart, short mit, whatever mitigation they have left, and they take the stack solo on the C marker, and the DPS will still have aggro on Gaia. So the 6 stack can still be planned as normal, right in the middle of the arena, and everything should play out like you're used to. Now, if you were the tank who died and it's early enough in the pull that it matters, once you get rezzed, you can keep your tank stance off and re-provoke Shiva to get right back to the aggro you had before. Very easily recoverable, doesn't cause an instant wipe as soon as the tank dies. But that's not the only benefit that 6-2 has. So the reason I like 6-2 a lot is it gives you options. It doesn't just fix if a tank dies, it also fixes other problems by giving the tanks more freedom. So because the Akh Morns require a lot less mitigation to survive, you can actually save and pool some mitigation towards the final hit of Akafa and take them as just the tanks. You can just do a 2 stack for the final party stack and survive very comfortably. If your healers need time to res people or recover, you can just take the stack entirely out of the equation. One last thing, because I know it'll come up. If you're worried about the DPS ripping aggro off of Shiva because the tanks have their stance off for so long, I actually went onto a target dummy to test this. All I did was 1-2-3 combo, provoke with stance on, and then turn my stance off. And for an entire 3 minutes, a Pictomancer with pots, 2-minute windows, full DPS rotation for the full duration uptime of phase 4 was not even close to ripping aggro off of me. So imagine if I was actually pressing all of my buttons. It should be completely impossible for a DPS to ever rip aggro off of Shiva, and vice versa. A DPS is always going to out-aggro a tank when it comes to Gaia. Hopefully that's enough to convince you to at least give 6-2 a shot. I think especially if you're progging the phase for the first time, getting to take all that pressure off of the tanks can give you way more opportunities to practice, and hopefully get a lot more pulls to P5. Also, because you're already here, if you haven't tried it, swap the first buster in P1. It lets you do this. You'll never kill your co-tank, a melee won't accidentally bait the buster, it's just better. Anyway, I hope this was helpful, and thanks for watching.